Modern life rewards urgency. Fast opinions, fast reactions, fast decisions, fast stimulation. What else? Fast identity. Everything pushes toward movement, constant movement. And because of that, many people never feel still long enough to observe what's actually happening underneath their behaviour or underneath the world around them. Urgency changes perception. That's important. Psychologically, the nervous system narrows under pressure. Attention contracts. The brain prioritises immediate resolution over deep observation, which is a useful survival tool, but not always useful for clarity, because urgency makes humans reactive. Stillness makes humans perceptive. This is why people often make the worst decisions emotionally accelerated. Not because they lack intelligence, because perception becomes compressed. See, under urgency, nuances disappear. Long-term thinking weakens, emotional impulses intensify. Uncertainty feels intolerable, and reactions start masquerading as intuition. Right? And many people confuse emotional intensity with truth, and they are not the same thing. Stillness creates space between stimulus and God, I'm going to have to put my teeth back in today. Interpretation. And in that space, hidden structure becomes visible. Patterns become clearer. Behaviour becomes clearer. Motives become clearer. Your own nervous system becomes clearer. This is one reason silence can feel uncomfortable initially. When external noise lowers, internal noise becomes audible. Thoughts people were avoiding become noticeable. Emotions surface, fatigue surfaces, contractions surface. And many people unconsciously use stimulation to avoid this encounter entirely. Constantly scrolling, constant distraction, constant noise, constant movement. Because stillness removes escape routes psychologically. But stillness is not passivity. That's where people misunderstand it. Stillness is not disengagement. It is observational stability. The ability to remain present without immediately reacting. That's very different. There's an important psychological concept here. Response inhibition. The ability to pause before automatic reaction. This is deeply connected to emotional regulation, decision quality, and behavioural maturity. Because the more reactive people become, the less accurately they tend to perceive reality. Reaction compresses perceptive. Pause, well, that expands it. Markets reveal this beautifully. The crowd becomes emotional during volatility. People rush, chase, panic, force decisions. Meanwhile, experienced operators often become quieter during chaos, not because they feel nothing, because observation requires emotional space. The ability to not become consumed by the emotional atmosphere. Difficult, right? Human relationships work the same way. Many arguments escalate not because of the original issue, but because urgency takes over the nervous system. People stop listening, they stop observing, they stop interpreting accurately. They react to emotional activation instead of underlying reality. And once emotional acceleration begins, clarity often disappears completely. Stillness interrupts escalation. That's powerful. There's another layer to this too. People often think clarity arrives through adding more information. Sometimes clarity arrives through removing interference, less noise, less urgency, less emotional flooding, and less external influence, less compulsive input. And gradually, what was hidden becomes easier to see. The interesting thing is, most important signals in life are subtle. Not dramatic. A shift in tone, a repeated behaviour, a change in energy, a pattern, a contradiction, a feeling that something no longer aligns. But subtle signals require perceptual bandwidth, and urgency, well, that destroys bandwidth. This is why exhausted people often struggle to think clearly. The nervous system becomes overloaded, right? Emotionally saturated, attention fragmented, and eventually reaction replaces reflection, not because the person is incapable, but because the system is overwhelmed. Silence recalibrates perception. Even physiologically, breathing slows, cortisol lowers, attention widens, pattern recognition improves, emotional intensity settles, and suddenly things that felt confusing begin organising themselves naturally, not through thoughts, through space. This is one reason why some of the clearest moments in life arrive unexpectedly, during walks, during silence, during early mornings, after stepping away near water, in still environments, after emotional decompression. The nervous system finally stops competing with constant stimulation, and perception sharpens again. Modern culture often frames slowing down as a weakness, but many of the most perceptive people move carefully internally, not lazily, deliberately, because they understand reaction speed and perceptual accuracy are not always aligned. The irony is, many people spend years searching for clarity while remaining permanently overstimulated, trying to hear subtle truth inside psychological noise. That's incredibly difficult because the signal was never necessarily absent. The environment was simply too loud to detect it. And this applies internally too. Many people already know what's draining them, what's misaligned, what's performative, what needs changing, what no longer fits, what they're avoiding. But urgency prevents honest observation. There's always another distraction available, another notification, another task, another emotional escape route. Silence or stillness removes some of those exits, which is why it can feel confronting but also clarifying. Eventually you realise the goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to become observant enough that the emotion no longer completely controls perception. And that's maturity. Because life is constantly communicating through patterns, atmosphere, repetition, behaviour, tension, and silence, emotional shifts, attention, and energy allocation. And it's hidden in plain sight. And often the clearest signals only become visible once urgency finally stops speaking over them. Awakening light. Anchoring strength, the equilibrium path unfolds.